Okay, so we've got a to what extent do you agree or disagree question. So again, because we're doing to what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion, you don't need to discuss both sides equally. I want to see your opinion and I want you to present me an argument. So you don't need to be equal and balanced in this style of question. So the question is focusing on when a country develops its technology, and it's asking you to talk about whether it's pointless to try and keep traditional skills and way of life, or whether we should just let them die out. All right, so for this question, let's have a look at the introduction. And the first thing I think when I look at this introduction, before I've read it, is I'm thinking it's too short. This introduction should be longer. 2 sentences is a very basic introduction, and you should try and write a little bit more for your introduction, 3 or 4 sentences, like 3 would even be better than this. So the introduction starts, it is generally believed that old-fashioned skills and ways of life, should it be is? We've got ways here, so it's plural, so it should be are. Skills and ways of life are useless and should be exchanged because of the development of modern technology. Okay, so my first issue with this sentence is the word exchanged. Exchanged isn't really used correctly in this sentence because it suggests that you give something and you get something. So, but in terms of this, we're losing the old-fashioned skills because of technology. So we're not really exchanging them for anything. So exchanged here doesn't really work. So really it would be something like old ways of life are useless and should be abandoned. Really good one. Should be given up. Okay, something like that is more the sort of meaning of the question. So exchange doesn't really have the correct meaning in this sentence. And then, however, I do not agree with this statement, and it will be discussed in this essay. So we have a spelling mistake here, so it's obviously should be W-I-L-L. To be honest, spelling mistakes, I tend not to take too many points off for spelling because, you know, everyone can make the occasional spelling mistake as long as I know what you mean, but it doesn't look good. And especially if you're making other mistakes in your essay, spelling stands out more and makes your essay look worse than maybe it really is. So my other issue I have with this introduction is so they give their opinion, I do not agree with this statement, and then they just say it will be discussed in this essay. So what I want to see for a higher level essay is I want you to give me the subtopics that you're going to talk about, okay? You're going to give me 2 paragraphs. What are going to be the 2 topics that you discuss further in your essay? Or you need to tell me more specifically. So tell me in a specific way what is your argument is going to be. Okay, so that's how you extend your introduction. That's how you increase your score for task completion and coherence and cohesion. Because one thing they want to look for in your essay is that you're building from your introduction through to your conclusion. So if you tell me in your introduction what your argument is going to be, I can then see how you build on that throughout your essay to the conclusion. So that's how you increase your score both for task completion and for coherence and cohesion, because part of your cohesion score is I can see you started with an argument, you supported it with relevant examples and well-explained detail, and then your conclusion also had the same argument as your introduction. So I can't really do this for this essay because they've not told me in the introduction what exactly their argument is going to be. They said they don't agree, I have their opinion, but because they've not given me the subtopics, I don't know what their argument is going to be. Okay, so when we move into the first paragraph of the answer, so he goes, some people think that traditional skills, so again we've got another spelling mistake here, and ways of life should be disappeared. Okay, so again, the same as in the introduction, I have an issue with this word disappeared. Okay, so we wouldn't really use disappeared in this sense in this sentence. So some ways of life should be disappeared. That kind of makes me think of Harry Potter, like magic, like something's going to be disappeared by something. So it could be, we should really have discarded, okay, which has the sense of something, it should be thrown away, traditional skills should be let go. We shouldn't be worried about traditional skills anymore. So something like should be discarded has more of the correct meaning for this sentence, and disappeared is an incorrect use of disappeared in this context. In other words, when we make some products which we use, which is present tense in our life, the modern technology, we just need a modern technology, such as factory. Is it just one factory? No, it's plural. It's more factories, such as factories. Or using computers is more practical for making items than old skills. So you can see here from old skills that what they're trying to do is paraphrase in the title, which was traditional skills. So I can see they've swapped out traditional for old here. Now, to be honest, traditional skills is quite a difficult phrase to paraphrase, and there aren't so many different paraphrases you can use. However, old skills isn't the best paraphrase you could use in this situation. So you could use stuff like, let's have a look. So a better paraphrase would be something like traditional craftsmanship would be a good paraphrase. Traditional craftsmanship. Or classic crafts. Or something like that would be slightly better. Old skills sounds slightly basic as a paraphrase. It's okay, but it's not the best paraphrase this person could have used. So then they move on. For example, when we build a traditional house which consists of mud, grass, and it's something like that, with traditional ways, it must be, we must spend more time and labor than building a massive and high-rise building utilizing modern technology. Okay, so the main issue with this sentence is they've included, for some reason, they've put in the middle something like that. So something like that is not formal enough, is too informal for your written IELTS essay. So it's something you would say in normal conversation, but it's not something you should be writing in your essay. So this should just be eliminated because it breaks up your sentence and it sounds too informal. So instead of also traditional ways also isn't the best paraphrase. It would be better to say something like traditional methods, or again, traditional craftsmanship would be a good paraphrase here. We spend more time and labor than building a massive and high-rise building. Again, a massive and high-rise, massive to me is not the best choice of word here. Then building a, maybe large or something like that. Massive to me gives the impression of being too informal for me, really. So other than the sort of vocabulary and the formalness of it, my main issue with this paragraph is that he's arguing that we should preserve traditional skills. That's what he told me in his introduction. He says he does not agree with the idea that traditional skills should disappear. So this paragraph, he's arguing the opposite. He's showing the point of view that actually traditional skills are not necessary in modern life. So this paragraph does not agree or does not support his argument or his opinion. This does not support his opinion, what's written here. Okay, but he's not given me the reason. He's not given me the negative points against it. He's not told me why this point of view is wrong. He's arguing that we should keep traditional skills. But then what he's done is he's given me reasons why we should get rid of them. So he needs to give me another sentence or two here which explains why they disagree with this. Okay? If this essay's title had been discuss both points of view and give your opinion, then maybe this would be okay. But this is should be an argumentative essay. He should be supporting his overall argument, but he's not. He's given the opposing point of view, but he's not told me why he disagrees with them. So when you see in the marks, it talks about extending your answers. supporting your arguments, this is what they mean. He needs to add in the extra information at the end, which explains why he thinks this is wrong. So for example, he could add a sentence that says, however, even though traditional crafts might cost more or be more expensive than using modern technology, the quality of the product is a lot higher than modern technology can make. Okay, so then he would have said, okay, I understand that some people think this, but this is why they're wrong. So that would have improved the answer for task completion. So we move into the second part. So this is where he starts to talk about his own opinion, but I disagree with this opinion. Even though it's not a convenient way, it is literally a history as a valuable heritage. Okay, so when I read this, I'm unsure what he means. It is literally a history as a valuable heritage. Literally, again, is kind of used in this way. It sounds quite informal. Okay, that's how I would speak to my friends. This is literally history. But in a written essay, it sounds kind of informal, so I would change that out for a more formal way to say it. It's quite literally history, so I would change it to it is a vital part. So we've made it more formal there than literally. It is a vital part of a culture's valuable heritage. Okay, so then we've made that a more clear, more formal sentence. So you've got, for instance, the sword or traditional metal utensils are far more completely precise and durable than machine-made. So I don't think overall this is a very good example of what he's talking about. Metal utensils, again, too vague. What do you mean? Are you talking about spoons? Are you talking about screwdrivers? Are you talking about, I don't know, metal chargers for your iPhone? Traditional metal utensils is not clear what they mean. Are far more completely precise. And again, I don't really follow the logic of this argument by how can a traditionally made sword be more completely precise than a machine-made sword. I would argue this is not logical. The reason it doesn't sound logical to me is this person hasn't clearly explained what they mean. They've not linked why a traditional sword would be more precise than a machine-made one. This is even the value is higher. Okay, so I'm like, okay, so he's trying to support his argument. And then he goes on to talk about some ways of life are so convenient and make our life much healthier, such as taking off shoes when we come into our home, which make our home clean, or family being gathered when we have Korean Thanksgiving Day. So again, I think this is quite a weak example. It's not a very good support for what they're trying to say. And also they're running all their ideas together into one long sentence, which doesn't sound very convincing. So it says something's convenient and make our life healthier. So then he talks about taking off shoes in our home and their family being gathered on Thanksgiving Day. So what is illogical about this to me is I don't understand the link between what's convenient about taking off our shoes when we come into the home. Why is that more convenient than not? I would argue that stopping to take off my shoes when I go into a home is inconvenient. So I don't understand the logic. He's not explained his logic to me about why this is more convenient. It's also, why is it healthier to take off your shoes when you come into the home? I mean, he's not created the link between why it's healthier to take off your shoes. So this is why the example is quite weak, because it doesn't clearly and logically link between his argument and why he's included it, okay? So if he'd supported that with the reasons, so there are some traditional ways of life that make our lives much healthier. For example, taking off our shoes when we come into our home. And if he added a because, taking off our shoes inside means you don't take dirt into your home, and so it makes your home easier to clean. Okay, so that's how you link it together. So by just leaving it like this, he needs to explain more, because as a reader, I don't follow the logic of what he's talking about. And especially when he talks about the family being gathered on Thanksgiving Day, how does that link to being healthier or to being more convenient? Those are the two words he's chosen, but I can't follow the logical link between that and being together on Thanksgiving Day. So that's what's going to be the issue for task completion and also for coherence, because coherence basically just means being logical. So I would argue this is a weak example and he's not logically linking the arguments together, which is going to affect his score. And then if we look at the last sentence, it means that the treasure, which have traditional and historical values, should be conserved for a long time to hand on to our descendants. So it means that the treasure, so again, he needs to link that treasure which have a traditional and historical value. So it should be traditional and historically valuable treasures, such as, then he needs to tell me what historical treasures he means, should be conserved for a long time to hand them on to our descendants. I actually like the word descendants here. To hand on to your descendants, I think is actually a good phrase to use. So again, my main issue with this is the weak example and it's not logically explained. So then if we look at the conclusion, again, the same as the introduction, the first thing I think when I look at the conclusion is it's too short. It's too short, it needs to be longer, he needs to be explaining his ideas more. In conclusion, in spite of the advantage of old skills, so again, I would suggest there's better ways to paraphrase this. We do not have to relinquish it. We should not have to relinquish it. Okay, so again, this is we're talking about a hypothetical situation, so we should be using should because you're making a hypothetical argument. Rather, we should conserve it because we've got skills, it's plural, so we should conserve them. Okay, multiple skills that we're talking about. So again, this conclusion would be better if he provided a summary of his previous argument. Would make it better. So that's what I would suggest he needs to include to make his conclusion longer and sound more like a conclusion. So if I was scoring this for the task achievement, I would score it quite low because he's not developing his argument. Okay, the development needs to be stronger. And then for coherence, I would already give the 5 score for coherence and cohesion. So because he does use paragraphs, his paragraphing is fine, but the issue is the lack of progression. And the same between these two is that task completion and coherence is he's not fully developing or extending his ideas, and he's not supporting them with relevant, well-explained examples. Okay. For the vocabulary, I would give 5 mainly because I feel it's quite limited in some places, and I feel like there is some repetition. He does try and use some different vocabulary, but especially for the old skills, I think he could use more. The grammar as well, I think would be a 5 because there are mistakes in it, although I can understand mostly what they mean. And then overall, I would give it a 5. And for this student, I think the main thing I would ask them to work on is definitely their task achievement, and how to form a logical argument and how to choose examples and explain them in a way that will support your argument. So I think that's the main issue that this student needs to work on.